welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, welcome in general. My name is Brooke. I'm a design student in college. I make lots of DIY, homemaking, and home decor content, so if you are new, make sure that you subscribe. Today is the day we have been waiting for a very long time. I have been teasing this video like crazy, and I'm so excited to finally be bringing this small bedroom makeover to you guys. A lot of work has gone into this video, so make sure that you subscribe and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Another thing you should know about me if you are new to this channel is that I'm a very budget friendly channel. I do lots of DIYing and I shop at very affordable places like Hobby Lobby, Home Goods. So if you're looking for budget friendly, inexpensive ways to make your home look high end on a budget, you're definitely in the right place. But I believe that is everything. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this bedroom makeover. So just to give you a little bit of a backstory on this room is in our basement. Therefore, it does not get a lot of light. There's one single window in there, but of course we are in the basement, so the light isn't the greatest in there. This room used to be my brother's room, and earlier this year he did move out, so it is now my sister Chloe's room. So that's who we're going to be doing the room for today. And as I mentioned, this room is very dark. It's in the basement, but it also has lots of dark colors on the wall. There's this very orange sort of paneling on two of them. And this room used to be a Michigan State theme, so there's a dark green as well as white on the wall, and of course Michigan State curtains to finish off the look. But as you can see, there really isn't much to complain about in this room. There aren't any structural issues or anything like that, so it's just going to be a lot of cosmetic changes that are really going to bring this room to life and really help it to give that feel that we really want. So after discussing with my sister her wants and her aesthetics for the room, this is the first digital sketch that I made of the room. As you can see, we're going with neutrals. It's light, it's bright, it's simple with some very warm tones. There's a light green on two of the walls, and then we're going to be painting the paneling white to sort of look like a vertical shiplap. So my sister's style, she really likes the bohemian sort of farmhouse styles, but combined. She likes things to be rustic, but she also does like some elements of farmhouse. So that's where the shiplap comes in. And overall, it's just a very simple and very hotel-like, relaxing feel. Alrighty, welcome to day one of this drastic makeover. It is a little bit echoey in here because there's literally nothing in here besides a little bit of carpet, but it's very echoey, so I apologize for the audio. So today we are going to get started on this room. The main thing that I want to do today is sand down the paneling, and I'm just not a big fan of the orangey color of them. It's very old looking to me. My sister's not a big fan of it either, so we're going to be sanding it down just enough so that we can prime it and paint it. That way it just makes this room nice and bright, because we are in the basement and we just want to bring in as much natural light and brightness as possible. Another thing we may get to is priming this wall. It looks to be sort of a black charcoal color, but it's a very dark green. Skipped my workout this morning because I have a feeling this is going to be my workout, just sanding down this paneling. I'm going to start by prepping the room with painter's tape, taking off light switch covers and stuff like that. Just basic prep for painting, get some tarps down here, and then hopefully we can knock out this paneling today. That is the goal. So of course, if you really wanted to, you could do this whole entire process by hand, but if I'm being realistic, if I'm being honest with you, I would definitely go the electric route. It's gonna make your life so much easier. It's a really good tool to have on hand for all kinds of projects, especially if you have lots of panels or a lot of wood to do all at once. I would highly recommend this route. The sander I use is actually pretty old. Of course, it really doesn't matter what kind of sander you use, but I found that a more coarse grit is gonna get the stain off the most efficiently. And as with anything, make sure that you're sanding with the grain and not against it as much as physically possible, and that you're also trying to keep the sander nice and flat so you're avoiding any divots in the wood. So I'm gonna use this sander for all of the big portions of the wall in between windows and doors, and then I went through and roughly sanded by hand all of the corners just because I couldn't get those with the sander. And as you can see by this clip, there's going to be a lot of dust flying through the air if you're doing a big paneled wall, so make sure you're wearing a mask and vacuuming regularly. I am not gonna lie, that process that you just saw took me a full day. I was covered in sawdust or whatever that finish was that was on the wood. So if you want to do this process or do this project in any paneled wall in your home, number one, it is definitely worth it, and two, make sure that you have a full day allotted to sanding down these walls properly. That way we are ready to go to prime and paint. It is now day 2 and it is time to further prep these walls because of all the dust and the sawdust flying around from the sanding the day before. I wiped down every single wall, every single door, every single piece of trim with a wet cloth just to make sure we're going to get no granules of dirt or dust in our paint or primer. We want it to be as smooth as possible so our paint just glides right on. Another thing I'll be doing is filling in any holes in the wall. In hindsight, I probably should have done this a day in advance, but nonetheless, I'm just using a little bit of plaster and filling in those holes. I'm gonna let them dry completely and then we'll go over them with sandpaper so that it's nice and flush with the wall and you won't even be able to tell that there was ever a hole there. So on today's agenda is to prime and paint these walls. So this is the primer that we picked up at the store. We got this at Menards. You can probably get this at Home Depot, Lowe's. It's primer for all surfaces. This is what we're going to be using on all of the paneled walls. Then we're going to go in with white. And then for the other two walls, you may have noticed this little green swatch behind me. This is the color Cypress Garden by Dutch Boy. This is basically what that color looks like. So yesterday I was putting this on the wall because I was kind of hesitant about whether I chose the right color or not. And lo and behold, I think I chose a color that is quite a bit too dark. I probably should have gone for something more like foggy gray, like this top one here, just to bring in some lightness in here. Since we are in the basement, it probably would have made more sense. So I'm going to show you guys a trick that I do a lot. Sometimes I take the leftovers that I have from other projects and I mix them together. First things first, I'm going to get some tarps and stuff laid down in here, and we are going to get the primer on these paneled walls. This will help them to smooth out any of the texture, any of the imperfections from sanding, and give our paint a really good base to stick to. So basically what I ended up doing for our green paint color is taking a very light gray that I had, I believe it was Whiskers by Benjamin Moore, and mixing our green color right into that can. I already had about half a gallon of that gray color, so I decided to just mix the green into the light color little by little. That way it was really easy to see exactly where my color was. And once I got to my desired color, I did paint a big swatch on the wall and let it dry. That way I could see if it was going to work for our space, and this worked perfectly. So that is a great hack if you want to redo any sort of space in your home and you don't want to buy more paint for. Maybe look through your own paint stash and mix together some colors and see what you can come up with. I personally found this part super satisfying. If you couldn't tell, I did strategically sort of figure out what I wanted to paint white on the paneling. I decided to keep the bottom trim pieces as well as the doors that same sort of honey oak color that it originally was. But then I painted the paneling as well as any of the little trim pieces all in the corners. And I really love the contrast that this created. I feel like this definitely brightened up the room and definitely gives that very modern farmhouse sort of feel. And now that the paneling is complete, we can move on to the easy part, which is the two smooth green walls that are going to add a little bit of color into this room as well as some brightness. So today we have a few different things that we need to be getting done out in the barn. The main thing that I want to work on is this headboard. So we found this on Facebook Marketplace for pretty inexpensive. Candace. Kitty. I wanted to find something that didn't have a lot of molding, was pretty flat, but was also going to be just a really nice backdrop for the bed. So it has the main sort of arched headboard, and then it has an arched footboard, which I think is really pretty. You're too cute. Bless you. Once the room was all painted and ready to go, there's nothing else to do with the walls. It was time to think about furnishing this space. And you guys know me, we were not going to pay full price for some very high-end bougie pieces. We are going to DIY some project pieces from Facebook Marketplace. So that is exactly what we did. We ended up finding a headboard that has this really fun arch detail. We found some really simple side tables that we could use on either side of the bed, as well as a desk that actually looks very similar to the side tables, just obviously in desk form. So just when I thought that we were done sanding, there was a lot more sanding ahead of us. So when I'm looking for furniture on Facebook Marketplace, I think it goes without saying that anything that's solid wood that you can actually sand down is going to be ideal for a project piece. Unfortunately, with these end tables, it was not the case. These sort of had that plastic veneer sort of coating on them, but thankfully I was gonna paint these white anyway, so we just gave them a light sand with a really fine sandpaper just to make sure that the paint had something to stick to. But fortunately for the desk and the headboard, those were solid wood, so we were able to stain those and make them look exactly how we wanted. But if you're ever looking for a project piece on Marketplace that you want to sand, definitely make sure that you message the seller and ask them if it is solid wood or not, because I think that is definitely good to know, especially if you are a DIYer. headboard. I had a love-hate relationship with this thing. It's so beautiful. Love the arch detail and the fact that it's solid wood. And I thought we would easily be able to sand it down and stain it exactly the color that we wanted it to be, but it was a little bit more complicated than that. So something that I didn't realize that was brought to my attention was the fact that this was probably an antique. This headboard had so many layers of stain and chemicals and treatments, I would assume, because back in the day they used to use all kinds of harsh chemicals to treat wood. So therefore when we were sanding this down, there's like 3 different layers. There was like a top coat that sort of had that red color in it. There was one in the middle that was sort of like a mid-tone, but then you had to sand down that other layer to get to the actual raw wood. So when we started sanding this, we took off that first layer, but we didn't get all the way down to the raw wood because it didn't come off very easily. As we got to certain spots in the headboard, some spots were a little bit weaker and we were able to see that there was actually more underneath, which was not exactly what we had planned for. So this is when we sort of had to make a different plan. We had to go a different route and pivot just a little bit to get the color that we wanted and get the effect that we wanted. In the end, it ended up working out, but man, was it a process because we were sanding for days and days. So we're gonna pivot a bit since that didn't work. I did some research and I found out that gel stain is a thing, and Tori's holding a dog. Hi, puppy. So this is what we're going to be using. We got it in the Varathane brand and it is the color Provincial. So basically the basic knowledge that I know about this is that it is a mix of a stain and a paint. It works on anything from metal to fiberglass. So it should work really well on wood. We got some cheap little brushes, rags, and we're just gonna see how it goes. We wiped everything down. I'm gonna work on the headboard. I think I'm gonna have Tori start painting the end tables. Are you okay with that? Those were just gonna do white because it's gonna be next to the bed and everything. So I think we're just gonna try to knock out as much as we can. And then after this, all we have is like a bunch of the fun DIYs and styling. So stay tuned, we're about to get to the super fun part, but let's go ahead and knock this out. So while Tori's going to be painting those end tables, I'm going to show you guys what my experience was like with the gel stain. Now, before this experience, I had never used gel stain in my whole life. I didn't even know that it existed, but it is super easy to use. It dries really quickly, and I just overall think it's a really good product. So as with many other stains, it does come in lots of different colors, and I think it's also important to mention that it is going to show up differently on different types of wood. So testing it out on a little space on your project is definitely a good idea. I'm just going to be using this really cheap paintbrush that we also picked up from the hardware store, and basically what you do is you paint it on and then you'll see that I wipe it off with a rag. And it's also recommended that you do this sort of process on a dry, hot day. You can do it on more humid, cool days, but it does dry a lot faster. And if you're working on something that isn't wood, once it dries you can apply as many layers as you'd like to get the desired look that you're going for. So of course I did learn quite a few things doing this process. First of all, I'd recommend that you wear old clothes and gloves, just because this is advertised to literally stain everything, and I can definitely confirm that it does stain your hands very easily. It's also a very sticky product, so having gloves is a lot more comfortable for that as well. And another great thing that I learned about this product is you don't necessarily have to seal it with anything. For lots of projects like this, you have to put some sort of clear coat over the top to seal everything together, but given that this was already sanded and smooth and really sunk into the wood really well, I didn't think that it was necessary to put any sort of seal on it, and it actually leaves a really good smooth surface as well. And lastly, as I mentioned, I am using this on sanded wood, so obviously this works really great. I used it on both of the headboard and the bed frame as well as the desk to match it, but I also did test this on painted wood that was sort of a light brown color. It's actually the floating shelves in our living room, if you're familiar with those, and I can confirm that it does work on those as well. However, I did apply multiple coats to get the look that I wanted. So if you have something you want to give a wooden texture to, or just a really good quality stain, I feel like this was a really good option. Once the desk and the end tables were ready to go, they were painted and stained. The last thing I wanted to do to elevate these is add on some inexpensive hardware. I found these from Menards, and I just decided to get little dark knobs for the end tables. That way there was really good contrast and just some really simple bronze handles to go on the desk. So now that our furniture is done, I want to get into this first big sort of DIY project, and we're actually going to be using some hula hoops. They have like the little, would you call them like rice beads sort of things in them. So they're kind of loud, but it's going to be stationary on the wall. You're not going to be able to hear it. So this is what we're going to be using. I'll put up the picture of what we're going to be creating. Basically, I wanted to create this shelf, and I was trying to find like some metal hoops or wood hoops or something, and they were really expensive. Tori's over there, they're not just floating. So they were really expensive, and I thought, what's something that's big and round that I can use for this? And I thought, hula hoops. So we got those at Menards for $3.99. You can probably find them at a dollar store or even like a grocery store or something. I was gonna order them on Amazon, but I didn't need like 10. That's pretty much all that they sell them in. So that's what we're going to be using. We're gonna be using some cardboard to go all the way around. It's only gonna be about 6 inches deep or so, and then we're going to be using a few layers of cardboard as the two shelves in between, and you'll sort of see how everything works out. So I think we're gonna get the hot glue gun plugged in, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. The sun's getting a little weird. Okay, put them over there. Looking back, I was very optimistic about this DIY. I think in theory, it's a very good idea. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but there are definitely some things that I would change about how I did the process to make it a lot less painful. So as you can see, we started with the structure. First of all, I would use more than one little piece of cardboard all around the hula hoops. I would actually use a couple different pieces just to reinforce it. Another thing, if you had some very like colorful hula hoops like I did, I would definitely consider painting your hula hoops so that they match the color of your shelf later. So maybe using like a beige sort of khaki toned paint, just so if you see the hula hoop a little bit, it's not going to be super obvious. Another thing, I wouldn't even use jute string. Like, I wouldn't even bother. It was very time consuming to wrap all the way around the hula hoops, and really it just made lots of gaps in between, so it was like really easy to see that sort of sparkly shimmery purple hula hoop through. So I would actually wrap this in burlap, that way you don't even need to worry about it, and it just looks a lot more seamless. And at this point, I'm not gonna lie, I got so frustrated that I just stopped filming everything that had to do with this project. So basically we took a piece of cardboard or a couple of pieces and cut out our shelves so that they are obviously the same width and everything of our circular structure. We wrapped those in the same string, and then we glued those into place. And one thing you'll notice in the after footage is I did add a piece sort of in between the two shelves just to keep them as level as possible. And yeah, I'm gonna be real with you guys, it turned out decent, but I would definitely make a few of those improvements just to make your life a lot easier. But overall, I thought it was a good idea. Those shelves can be super expensive, so I'm glad we were able to make something really, really similar for a lot less money. And now, after months and months of doing projects, endless sanding, thrifting, and gathering a bunch of materials for this room makeover, it is finally time to put on the finishing touches. I absolutely love how this whole entire space turned out. All of the pieces that we made and purchased go together beautifully. The room feels very hotel-like. It's very calming. I love the green color on the walls and the different accents of darker greens and all of the natural textures and contrasts we were able to bring in. I thought that the headboard turned out really good. I feel like it looked a lot more polished than what it used to look like. I love how the end tables contrast it a bit and are just very simplistic and modern. The two paintings above the bed really frame it out and give the room a little bit of interest, also add in a bit of that bronze gold tone, and then the lamps just give it that really cozy, beautiful hotel-like feel. And with that being said, if you're interested in any of the items that you see in this video, not all of them are able to be purchased. A lot of them are DIYs or thrifted items. With that being said, I will have a video linked down below that I made a couple weeks back on a bunch of these DIY paintings we made. I made the vase on the desk, as well as the painting on that circular shelf and the paintings that are above the bed. But anything that can be linked will be linked in the description box down below if you are interested. And that is going to wrap up today's video. I am so happy with how this room came out. I feel like it looks so beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, I spent so much time getting all of the beautiful footage for this video, and I'm just obsessed. I love the way that it turned out, and I really hope you guys did as well. I hope it was worth the wait in your opinion. Let me know in the comments below which part of the room was your favorite, if there's a DIY you want to try out, if there's a piece of furniture you want to make for yourself. Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you subscribe and you give it a thumbs up to let me know. Like I said, lots of work went into this video, so I would really appreciate it. And also make sure that you are subscribed for fall content that's going to be coming soon. I'm hoping to get out and do some shopping, and of course later in August or so, probably mid to late August, is when we're going to be doing a bunch of fall decorating. So lots of fun stuff coming on my channel, and I'm just really glad that you're here and you were able to sit down and hang out with me today. But that is the end of today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye guys.